American people, when we heard about Bagram being closed over a month ago, was there any good reason that they did that? Help us understand what could have been going through their minds to close this base.
Yeah, so let's go a different tack here, Gene, for your audience, because I think your audience is really probably one of the smartest audiences in the media world these days, because partly of what you, Lance, and your team do every single time you come out. It's not just about giving up a military position in a place like Bagram, and I lived at Bagram for years. I know that piece of terrain really well. It was a huge airfield, and we should have never given it up. And frankly, if we gave it up, we should have destroyed everything on it, because there's been a whole bunch of military equipment that the Taliban has been able to get. When we look, all of the magazine covers that you just showed, Lance's comments that he just talked about, the clip from Nancy Pelosi praising these decisions. Right now, tonight, as I'm speaking, we have probably the largest potential American hostage situation in the history of the United States of America. We definitely factually have, in what's called a non-permissive environment, meaning a very dangerous environment, we have the largest non-combatant evacuation effort in the history of the United States of America from a landlocked country called Afghanistan. And our Pentagon and our State Department don't have a clue how many American citizens are actually there. According to the spokesperson from the Pentagon, I think today or late yesterday, John Kirby, when asked how many American citizens are there, and he said, we don't know. So we could have anywhere from 10,000 to 40,000 American citizens tonight. So our prayers. So if people want to pray for something, Gene, and all the listeners for Flashpoint, if you want to say a prayer tonight before you go to bed, say one for not just the men and women in uniform that are there, that are going to be in harm's way, but the American citizens that are there, that were there, placed there by either the State Department or by the Department of Defense or by our intelligence community. And they're there because they were helping out with our objectives and our mission to accomplish the mission that they were given. And they've been there. We've been there for, as we all know, for 2 decades. One of the things that he did was he immediately stopped some of what I call the carrot and stick approach that Donald Trump had. And Donald Trump's carrot and stick approach was basically negotiating with the Taliban in Doha, right, with the Taliban leadership. But the stick was, if they reared their ugly head to try to do anything, we had a whole range of things, of options that were being executed, like precision strikes. And there was a whole bunch of precision strikes that were bored on the heads of many of the Taliban positions and many of the operations that they tried to do to test the fabric and the leadership of Donald Trump over the last 4 years. And he certainly, in fact, he upscaled it. He upscaled those strikes during the negotiations to show the Taliban leadership that he meant business. So the Biden administration completely canceled those. He then signaled that he was going to have a complete pullout without recourse. And the incompetency in the decision making, and this is with the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, the White House, the national security apparatus of this country, the idiotic think tanks that think that they know better than frankly the commanders on the ground. We then pulled the military out first before we evacuated our American citizens, and then any other people that we needed to evacuate, like maybe some of these Afghans that helped us out over time. But this sort of Trojan horse potential that is coming in from Afghanistan is only additive, because these numbers are actually small numbers, although you said it. I think you said about 1 million people, could be upwards of 1 million people, but that's additive to the staggering numbers that have been coming across the Mexican border and the American border, our southern border. And those numbers are in the tens of millions in just the last 6 months. And we know from one report from one report, and I'll stick with this one, although I've been told that the number is almost double this. We know from one report that I am fully aware of that the countries, the number of countries that people coming across the southern border represent are 64 countries. That is a report that I read about 2 months ago. I've been told that that number is about double. There's not 64 countries in Central America and South America. Okay. So where are these people coming from? And I can tell you, I know where they're coming from. They're coming from the Middle East in many cases. I know that there's an Iranian connection that's coming up. We've known that for years. So the strategic implications for this incompetent level of decision making, and then to stand in front of the American people as though we are a bunch of idiots, and I'm sorry for using language like that, but as though we're a bunch of idiots, and to think that we're going to look at this and go, oh yeah, this is okay, this is just fine that we have this mess, when we're seeing pictures of people falling from aircraft because of their desperation to get away from an enemy. You know, the one thing that I do know about the Taliban, and I know about ISIS, and I know about Al Qaeda because I faced them. I've not only faced them, I have spoken to them. And the many that I've spoken to over years speak perfect English, many of them. And especially some of the leaders, they're educated people. These are not dummies. These are warriors. This is a warrior class of people.
Right.
And one of the things that we have done, and I don't want to move around, and I don't want to take up too much time, I guess, but because I could go on and on. There's a bunch of things that I would love to cover with your audience. But one of the things that I know is that warfare is not fair. Warfare is not meant to be fair. Not meant to be fair. When you go to war, you go, as you highlighted so beautifully with Winston Churchill's quote, we go to war to fight and win. That is the mission. That's the overarching mission of our Department of Defense. It's not nation building. It's not touchy-feely critical race theory classes. It's not none of that. It is to fight and win our nation's wars. And what we've done, Gene, is we have gotten very, very good at what I call participating in war. Right. We're really good. We get it. We're trained at participation. We are untrained, or we have a failing grade at winning. And hold on, I gotta. Hopefully, I didn't get backed off. I got a call.
You're still here.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I'm trying to go on and on because one of the things the ridiculousness that we have done in our military and in our Department of Defense, and the White House has allowed us to get away with this. This has been going on for years, but these last 6 months have shown such a major weakness and an apathy, actually, and a very low appetite to engage in a smart, tough way on the international scene. One of two things, and I'll stop. Two things that I'm very concerned about. Number one, this has to do with Afghanistan. The number one recipient of the best outcome right now in Afghanistan is China. They are clearly the ones that sort of win the day. So China wins the day with this incompetent decision making that we've just seen, and they definitely win the day. And there's a reason why the Taliban haven't touched their embassy, and we haven't heard any Chinese having to be evacuated. The second thing, and it has to do with China specifically, is these recent incursions by Chinese Navy and the Chinese Air Force over the Straits of Taiwan, and frankly, inside of what we call engagement zones, air engagement zones that are violations of those engagement zones in Taiwan. So China is emboldened by our lack of ability, our lack of courage, really. And frankly, the decision-making apparatus right now is in a state of crisis. And so, I want to always leave things on an up note, right? Because what is it because this is bad, though. And I will tell you, there's no good news here with Afghanistan, and the litany of domestic problems and the litany of foreign policy problems that this administration has got us involved in it's staggering. It's staggering. We are at a crisis level in this country and on the foreign policy stage. what gives me hope, and I hope I said this to you when we were together last, that we have hundreds of millions of people in this country that are starving for leadership, and they will go towards the leaders that lead them. They are looking for that leader. So there are going to be leaders that will step up, because that's the nature of the American DNA, the nature of the American culture. We are not going to allow a bunch of incompetent, socialists or communists or whatever you want to call them, because this is not a Democrat versus Republican issue right now. We're talking about a drive towards communism with some people who I would just call thugs in some cases, right. And others are just arrogant, and they're elitists, and they see us. They see guys like me. They see Christians like all of us, right. And they look down their nose at us and they say, we're going to remove God from everything, right? We're going to remove God from everything. We must pray. We must continue to pray in this country. We must have, daily prayer, but we also must stand up, and we must stand up, after praying, and when we're ready to stand, when we stand up, we've got to get involved in the American experiment like we've never been involved before. People cannot just pray any longer. You can pray while you're doing something. That's right. I do it all the time. Yeah. I do it all the time. But you have to do more. You have to step up, and you have to get involved. And we have to stop complaining about the people up in Washington, D.C., or the people in whatever state capital from whatever state you're from. We put them there. Or the school boards. I'm paying very close attention to a lot of school boards around the country, as we all are, with mask mandates and critical race theory. We put these people there. We voted them in. So we have to wake up, get off the couches, get off the stools, whatever, and we've got to get involved in our communities. I do believe at the top, from the White House, and I think we're going to see some consequences. People are going to have to step down. I mean, there's going to have to be some resignations. Yeah. The people that are in the military, the uniformed people in the military, there has to be some resignations there. I mean, you cannot be a 4-star in the military directly involved or directly responsible for what it is that we're doing today and think that what is happening is fine. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, agreed. All right, and Robby Dawkins. Robby, you've been on the ground there. You've been all over that part of the world. When you saw this, you immediately went to social media and you started praying for people. I want your take, just as we got Pastor Sharam's take from being on the inside. You've been on, as far as any American I know, you've been on the inside from a ministry standpoint.
Yeah, and I totally agree with Sharam. It was all respect to the general. I mean, we all know that he's experienced fierce retaliation from the left and our government, and how that they can bring backlash to somebody that they don't like. And so he's probably being a little cautious with his words. But I really do believe that that this is something that has been plotted and planned. When you take a look at what has taken place and what was happening, I mean, the way that Donald Trump as president was operating is he had everybody, all the city officials, mayors, police, all of the government officials, all of the military were paid by the U.S. government. All of the Afghan, leadership was paid by the U.S. government. Now, from a business standpoint and from a political standpoint, I think it was actually genius, especially if you understand how that part of the world works, because it was almost treating it as if it was an acquisition. I know that that's probably not friendly language to a lot of people, but actually it was brilliant from a standpoint of leadership, because they were all beholding to him. You're going to respect your boss. You're going to respect what they say. You're going to listen to them. But what happened as of January 20th, the paychecks stopped. And as soon as they stopped getting paid, all of a sudden they got to feed their families. We're all sitting there going, how did 350,000, of the military and the police just stand down to a band of, at best, 75,000 Taliban soldiers? Well, when people are hungry and they're trying to figure out how to feed their families, and there's no doubt, I mean, we've got to know the Taliban, had money that they had received from the U.S. government for the previous administration, during the Obama administration. And the proof is in how they dealt with the Iranian government and how they were giving over $100 million, possibly $500 million to them to get them to stand down. And so all of a sudden, when that stopped, and how did they people have been asking me over and over, how did they just come in and just take over? Well, people stepped down, because they had to feed their families. And there's a bit of Stockholm syndrome, I think, going on there, where that all of a sudden you feel beholding to the people that are paying you. So I agree with Shahram. There's so much more to this story of what's happening and what's taking place. There's something underlying that is happening here in all this. And the Afghan believers, I just want to say this, the Afghan church is strong. It is strong, it is powerful, and the Taliban will not prevail against the Church of Afghanistan. The Church of Jesus Christ that's in Afghanistan will be strong, and it will prevail. I'm telling you now, it will not fold. Many are having to, get their wives, children, daughters, mothers out of the country, out of harm's way. But I'm telling you, there's a strength that is there, just as the church in Iran has not only prevailed, but exploded with the persecution and the opposition. And the Afghan church will do the same. It will not fold. It will not collapse like the government has done, because they haven't been paid. They haven't had all of that. And they're purely influenced by the powerful gospel of Jesus Christ. And they will not bow and they will not break.
Robbie, tell us about have you been in touch with some of your contacts there on the ground, the ministers and the other evangelists there? What are they saying?
On a daily basis. Many, of course, the thing that I put out prayer points on my social media for people to pray against the spirit of fear. Of course, when you've got, it looks like the devil himself in the streets coming and looking for your wives and your children. I mean, everybody, if anyone believes for a second when the Taliban says, look, we're not going to retaliate, they are going house to house as we speak, looking for people of interest. A major part of the people of interest are the believers, the Christians that are there. They're looking for anybody who has had any connection with a Westerner at all. And the thing of it is, they're not looking for prisoners. They're looking to kill them. And they will do that. And, God sparing them, God hiding them and protecting them, in which we are praying for. But that is what they are looking to do. They aren't looking to be nice to anybody. They sat there and said that they cared about women's education and girls' education. Just a few months ago, they swept through a school, the Taliban killing 87 girls and young women, killing them in Kabul. And this is how they operate. They are liars, they are deceivers, and they will come in and they will do this. Our guys that are there, they are praying, they're standing strong. Again, many are the ones who have sort of that target on them the most are concerned mainly about their children and their wives in the situation. The Taliban before, to be an infidel, there is no penalty of sin really to go in and to rape the women, to rape the girls, or to exchange them as child brides. And that, of course, is something they're terribly in fear of. But they are there, and they are saying they're saying it's even worse than what they're seeing our media say. And of course, and I believe them. Their reports are strong, but they are going house to house, the Taliban. They are looking for them. They're looking to kill them and to annihilate them. They're not looking to take prisoners. All right, Lance, let me,
we heard from General Flynn as he was talking about we got to keep praying, and we're going to have, I've asked Pastor Shahram he's going to pray here in just a moment. We're going to pray for all those in this horrible situation that's going on over there. But Lance, I think there's a very key phrase that General Flynn was talking about, how we've got to put some feet to our prayers and stand up and do some things. What does that mean to you? What can we do?
Well, let's remember something, Gene. It was Kenneth Copeland, ironically, who I heard during the first Iran, when we had to go into Iran and under Bush, President Bush, into Iraq, rather. And I can remember him doing a prayer meeting, and I was a young guy in the ministry then, and he was quoting what Jesus taught, where he said that when these things begin to come to pass, see that you be not troubled.